Welcome to Medica Nova Wellness Studio. I'm Angelika Koch with your educational videos about optimal health and the most innovative and holistic approach to your well-being. Before I continue with another inspiring video about how to live optimal health, I would like to say thank you for your comments and support about the last video I made, where I shared with you how we can support our adolescents suffering from anorexia and bulimia with natural and effective therapeutic tools. So thank you. In today's Discovery series, Healthy Family and Soul Medicine, I want to focus on another important theme and how we can establish a healing platform for our children and adolescents experiencing lack of concentration, especially in the school environment. Lately, I had quite a few inquiries from parents about this subject, and so I thought it might be of interest to you. To stay updated with ongoing videos, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, share and like it with your friends, and don't forget to book your place at the online academy at the website medicanova.net for your online home study courses in first aid homeopathy and quantum healing. So lack of concentration, unfortunately, is very common among our children and adolescents today. And here I encourage the family to really try to clarify the causes first before you label it a disease. If allowed to continue, it can go into anxiety or fear of failure, or this feeling like I can't achieve my potential. The causes may be physical orientated ones or psychological in origin. Physical conditions which undermine the lack of concentration are usually an infection, maybe long-standing symptoms like eczema, headaches in school children. I've seen so many times, lack of sleep, not having eaten enough, right, or a runny nose. All of that can create that inability to focus. But the attention in itself as an issue has become a really big focus in our culture today in recent years. Unfortunately, today an entire industry is built around this subject. And we have departments of university medical centers and their affiliated agencies and departments all trying to figure out how to fix this problem, right? And how to label children with hyperactivity or ADD, ADHD, and trying to find a mind-altering substance just to quench this life force of a child which apparently cannot focus. But children are naturally inquisitive. They want to explore, right? They want to demonstrate that they're alive, and therefore they're sensitive. Now, this is the natural state of a child, and therefore an environment which confines the child in some way is therefore contrary to the fundamental nature of the child. Although children, of course, are expected to learn certain rules today, right? And they have to learn how to interact and to respect also the others, that environment. It is not reasonable, in my view, to expect that most children will thrive in an environment which is very restrictive. And the classroom today is a very restrictive environment for the life force of a child, particularly if it's a young child. The majority of schools demand that the children conform today, and they have expectations, right? The pressure is high. The children get even punished if they don't follow these rules. And what really strikes me here is that our society today, as well as the parents, then truly believe that there must be something wrong with the child. The child might choose several styles of reactions, right? Of course, most of the time they repress this urge, to express themselves fully, because they want to have good grades, they want to have the recognition, they want the praise. And then there are the others who become the rebels, right? Because they can't repress this life force, and they want this social interaction, right? They want even to learn, but maybe in an exuberant way. In this country, in the US, unfortunately, I can see that then suddenly, too eagerly the disciplinarians come in and the psychotherapists, and of course they prescribe drugs. But remember here that the child truly responds to his or her environment and not only to one's personality. In cellular biology, the cells behave according to the environment, and therefore your child will respond in, I would say, the appropriate way here to one's environment. So don't just make it a disease. Have a step back here, right? Just breathe through, let it all go, all what you heard about, and don't be too worried about your child, and just come back to yourself and say, what's wrong with here? What are the triggers? Our culture expects conformity today, rational behavior. It's almost a predictable, civilized lifestyle. I'm not saying there's something too wrong with it, but it's definitely out of proportion with our children. Any deviation from this mode is seen as threatening, eccentric, causes concern, and as I already mentioned, there must be something wrong with the child. So here's some food for thought for you. Just play with this and see if you find a trigger here. How does your child pay attention? How can it focus? Can it actually persistently, really concentrate on a task? What constitutes the norms of attention? In your cultural environment, what are the expectations, projected onto a child? How should the child perform? And how does this all affect your child? Does it feel it's a failure, or I'm not good enough? How about something very simple? Does your child eat on a regular basis, particularly in the school hours? Does it get enough sleep? I mentioned before physical symptoms, eczema, headaches, runny noses, seasonal allergies. Of course, the emotions play a big part here. How about if there are difficulties at home? Look at the family dynamics. Some children who are very precocious and very intelligent, they get easily bored, right? They maybe need a more stimulating school environment. Does the school program really provide enough physical outlet and exercises for the children? Some children learn in a more sort of tactile environment. They want more visual, auditory, kinesthetic teaching methods. Yes, you think this can't be, but I've seen it many times. Check the vision of your children. Sometimes they can't see the blackboard, and therefore they feel like they have a lack of concentration, or they have hearing problems. How can we ignore that our children repeatedly today say, I hate school, I don't want to go to school? Parents become convinced that something is wrong with their child. And then the child's fundamental way of seeing the world, is seen as a sort of a disease. Now that borders on insanity. And in this video, I would like to, again, bring home to you that there are natural ways. Of course, I always talk about natural supplements and homeopathy here. But it doesn't have to be too complicated. All this, what I share with you, is available in your local health food store. So it's not too complicated. And if you need a backup, you can contact me at health@medicanova.net or your local healthcare provider. The first thing I would say, get yourself a good vitamin mineral supplements. It has to be based on plants derivative, because the body doesn't recognize anything else. Yes, they're more expensive, but your child will benefit from it. Plant derivatives, look out for that. Essential fatty acids is really important for the brain development of your child. These are oils, omega-3, 6 and 9, and the main one is fish oil, based on fish liver or fish oil, but you can also get it in a combination supplement, made from fish oil, borage, flaxseed oil. All these oils lubricate and really support the brain development of your child. Magnesium is another one. I would say 200 milligrams daily here, because really it supports the behavioral aspect of your child. Maybe heard about iron in the context of anemia, but here it regulates and activates also the dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter, which is synthesized with the adrenal glands. These are glands which have to do with fight and flight. So if your child is exposed to a lot of stress, the iron supply may be deficient. Zinc, I mentioned before so much in the previous video. I talked about anorexia and bulimia. Zinc is an important cofactor in producing this brain supportive neurotransmitters. You have heard about serotonin and dopamine. Also other brain substances, but they really focus on here on the learning faculties, holding their attention, ability to focus, and also it supports the immune system, of course. You will find zinc in foods like pumpkin seeds, meats, eggs and seafood, but hey, adolescents are not interested in that. They just want to live on the junk. Vitamin C, I would say definitely good here as well, because it helps to manufacture these neurotransmitters and also quench the free radicals, the damage in the brain. A very big one in the vitamin group is the B group. And here these vitamins assist in the brain enzymes which use the carbohydrates to produce fuel, energy in the brain. So if you're low on vitamin B1, thiamine, or vitamin B6, then you have a deficiency of serotonin, which very much also creates obsessive thinking and inability to focus. Often lecithin is not talked about. It's a fat-soluble phospholipid and a key component of all cell membranes, and they're found in high concentration in the brain. Now, the cell membrane is very important today in our body because it's toxic and often polluted, so the nutrients can't go in, and therefore the cell can't produce ATP, which means energy we need to live and thrive on, as well as the waste products don't go out. But also if the cell membrane is really toxic or polluted, the cells don't communicate with each other, they don't talk with each other, and that's today they're called mitochondrial diseases, a big cause of major pathology today. So lecithin. Probiotics. Now, I talked about this before in other videos too, but our brain is directly connected to the digestive system. So probiotics are friendly bacteria, naturally found in the intestinal tract, and often children who have digestive problems are lacking probiotics. The brain function can be influenced by, it's called dysbiosis, maybe you heard about it, which occurs when there is an overgrowth of unfriendly organism in the intestinal system and an absence of the beneficial ones. So ideally we have a ratio of 85% good bacteria and 15 bad ones. We need the bad ones too. But today, unfortunately, it's reversed, this ratio. We have about 85% really harmful organisms and about 15% only of beneficial really good, healthy bowel flora bacteria. So, and then of course the added antibiotics add to that on top of it and really destroy a healthy bowel flora. The resulting overgrowth of yeast and other pathogenic flora has been linked, of course, to alteration of the immune system, food sensitivities, and behaviors in children. With autistic children, for example, if you take away the wheat and the gluten, that already makes a big difference here. So introduce more yogurt, kefir, fermented food, sauerkraut. I know children don't like it, but try to do it in the form of kefir and yogurt, as well as supplements. Amino acids. These are building blocks of protein, and they're essential for the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. And it's like if you don't have that, your child isn't calm, it's nervous, is irritable. So try to bring in maybe in the form of GABA supplement, that maybe helps as well. If your child is too aggressive, really goes into the ADD, ADHD thing, maybe I would suggest 5-HTP. It's called hydroxytryptophan. It's a precursor for serotonin. Again, very much involved in the learning and behavior aspect of children. Researchers have found if definitely the serotonin level goes down, then we have this obsessive thinking coming in, the lack of concentration and the aggressiveness. I also want to add some stress-reducing herbs. I like passion flower here, valerian, lemon balm is wonderful. I also would like to mix it up with American ginseng to boost the adrenals. When the stress level is very high, to calm down the adrenals, as well as maybe ginkgo biloba in adults. My favorite food is spirulina here because it oxygenates the blood, it really gives life force to the cells, and it's really wonderful for attention deficit or behavioral problems in children. I would suggest 1 teaspoon mixed with a glass of apple juice or the smoothie. Your child gets used to the taste, it's not a big deal. And it also contains amino acids, right? You don't have to have another supplement on top of it. And it really helps to support their ability to focus and to hold their attention. Try it out for 6 months and you will see the difference. I also want to give you homeopathic remedies. As you know, they're not just good for physical symptoms, but they can deeply go into the personality and realign the out of sync and out of balance, unique, flavor of your child. We don't want to suppress, we don't want to quench this wonderful life force in your child, but we want to balance it. Again, you can get that in your health food store, but try to contact either your personal health care practitioner or contact me at health@medicanova.net for further backup. I'm happy to help here. Book an individual consultation either for yourself or children, and I show you how to create a really individualized protocol. The first remedy is called Barita carbonica. Now these children, they lack self-confidence, and with every step in their life they ask themselves, can I do this? Did I really do that? Right? So they're intelligent, but their challenge is to learn to cope with their doubts, and they feel often powerless. And ultimately, that is also their challenge to overcome these feelings. They also can display an inhibited development, a little bit backward maybe. It can be either physical, that they maybe have a limping leg, and therefore they feel not so confident, or there may be even mental handicaps, especially when they become aware that they're less capable than maybe other playmates of the same age. Then problems can arise. They feel like they're not able to do much, or they may be lesser or even smaller than other kids. And as I said, then we have the feeling that maybe they laugh at me or they're teasing me. They're very sensitive to teasing from the teachers as well as their classmates. And even just that situation can trigger the lack of focus in itself. Of course, they are very much the object of being teased, from and being ridiculed about that. Their self-confidence deteriorates then even further, and as a result, their performance in school will decline, and then we have a vicious cycle starting all over again. So at first glance, Barita carp children, they seem to be a little bit more simple, docile, they're definitely slow, they need more time, don't rush them. They're usually shy and they downplay their abilities so that less is maybe expected from them, so they don't get ridiculed or teased. They try to avoid that. One way is of hiding this lack of confidence, that they play the clown, right? It's like ha ha ha, and I get away with that. But that's just on the surface. They are not especially sure about themselves, and so they seem to be easily impressionable. In new situations, they're often, very shy. They need time to adapt. And as I said, they can be a little bit physically or mentally clumsy. Their thinking is slow, and they need time to understand things fully. And which is one of the problems they have really a hard time at school. Right? Teachers need to understand that they have a different personality than other children, but it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. The remedy Barita carp can really strengthen the self-confidence, particularly if there's an inborn disability going on here. It also brings out the hidden talents, within the child, and the child blossoms more. The demands made of children by society, I mentioned it before, are mainly of an intellectual kind, and everything should be as fast as possible. And this has really a detrimental effect on these types of children. So to summarize, they're slow, they need time, and they're maybe mentally or physically affected with a disability. So Barita carp as a God sent here, because it really realigns the energy within the child. Try it out. Another remedy is called Sulfur. I'd like to share that with you here. It fits, the remedy comes in when it fits the period of children's lives when they're seeking a relationship and trying to discover themselves. So it can be children and adolescents. They often feel unloved. These children really flourish in an atmosphere of love and harmony, and then they can share their charm and their love with each other. They want a relationship in which they can give and receive on equal terms. Sulfur children have a strong thirst for knowledge. They're inquisitive. Even when they're small, they want to grab hold of things, right? They're looking at things with their hands. They're curious. When they're somewhat older, they want to know everything and can become quite engrossed in a sort of like particular object of a subject, right? They're home in, they become experts. When they have a stamp collection, they want all the stamps. They really look for everything. But then they can also easily lose interest. particularly if it's like it doesn't inspire them anymore. And when something doesn't interest them anymore, they neglect it completely. That's the other side of that personality. As I said, they're so curious. They could be engineers, right? They love taking things apart and put them together again. I can see that in boys a lot. So if Sulfur children find that love doesn't flow naturally, they become indifferent. And then you see the other side of this personality. Their defense mechanism is, I don't care, right? It conceals, of course, the sadness and the loneliness. They try to use their thoughts, to suppress their emotions. So they philosophize, they have lots of plans, lots of ideas. But really deep down, nobody loves me. And therefore, as I said, I don't care. I don't care if I have a shower today. I don't care if my room is tidied up, right? The appearance, who cares, right? That's the sort of like expression you see in this adolescence then. Needless to say, their school performance drops dramatically by then. Although they're highly intelligent, they can suddenly flip onto this other side of expressing dullness, lethargy, lack of concentration. For many, actually, it begins with a sort of low blood sugar level. So around 11 o'clock, just the hour before noon, their energy drops. And often teachers say, the child has the elbows on the desk, or the head, drops into the hand, and they have glassy eyes, and they look out in the window, and they're not concentrating, right? Could be a blood sugar imbalance. But such droopiness often heralds the beginning of the dull side of when they become disinterested in things. So then they begin to daydream, right? They're not there, you talk to them and they're not responsive. They stop doing their chores, or only grudgingly do them. They come home from school and they go into their rooms, right? They read or listen to music or mostly watch TV. So that's really when you feel like they're changing. And at this stage, the Sulfur child stops doing well at school and begins to procrastinate. So they were maybe top school children in the beginning, high grades, and suddenly they go down. He only wants to stay at home. And these are the children who would say, I hate school. I don't want to go to school anymore. So the lack of concentration or lack of focus is not a disease here, right? It's because deep down, these children are lacking the connection of love. And that causes them not to be able to focus in school, apart from maybe the blood sugar disorders as well. So have a look at this. Our last remedy is called lycopodium. Here the theme is about fear of failure. Very different theme. So many lycopodium children are intellectually orientated, which doesn't mean that they're not into sports. On the contrary. They like everything, but they also want to be the best. They're very ambitious. They push themselves very, very hard to achieve. Now, in general, as I said, they're quite precocious. They can be quite intellectually. And they only undertake something when they really are certain about that they can actually do it. So when they're small, maybe little toddlers, they don't babble. They only start to speak when they know they can articulate a complete sentence. Now in the classroom, these children are very keen to set an example for all. But what happens? They also love, being in control. Love of power, we say here. So when they feel at home in the school environment, you see the other side of this personality. They can become very critical. critical to the teachers as well. And adolescents, really express this very much so. And I have to say, a teacher will have a hard time with a lycopodium adolescents, because they will criticize the teacher. They will say, oh God, he's an idiot. This kind of talk. Although they are high achievers and want everything under their control, they also experience tremendous anxiety, particular anxiety of anticipation when it comes to new challenges. Maybe before an exam, entering a new unfamiliar situation, it really freaks them out. So at this point, their self-confidence goes down. Inside, they're plagued with doubt as to whether they will be able to reach their goal. And they have high goals, so the higher they go, the harder they fall. So it's hard for them. But the way of getting a grip on this anxiety is really they prepare well. They study hard for an exam because they really want to go through with brilliant colors, right? They want to achieve, they want to have the best mark. They go into the exam well prepared. Now what happens if there's a question which they don't feel so clear about? Wow, the doubts kick in, and then the whole anxiety starts. And that can be the lack of concentration. So again, look for the causes. Don't try to label your child that there's something wrong. There's always a story behind the expression of your child. And your child is perfectly well. There's nothing wrong. But have a look, maybe the environment needs a little bit adjusting. Maybe take the child out of school and put it into a school which is more appropriate for its personality to thrive. Again, in this video, I only introduced you to 3 common homeopathic remedies which are indicated for such, that expressions. But as I said, evaluate the individual situation before, making a conclusion or choosing always the medication. In your local health food store, again, you find this supplements as well as the homeopathic remedies. As a dosage plan, take 1 tablet daily for 10 days and then repeat the whole thing the next months. And maybe you have another round if indicated. But of course you need a backup. So again, try to contact me at my email health@medicanova.net. I'm happy to help here. So I hope that gives you some pointers. Enjoy, and happy Easter. I know tomorrow is happy Easter and it's spring. And till next time, much love. Take care.